Alright guys, Jeremy back here, and I'm here to make the next video of the lighter Rama programming step-by-step tutorial. I've gone over some of the basic steps, gone over some subdividing. The best way, just to start this video off, the best way to learn this is to go ahead and download the software. You can download a free version and then start just playing around with it. This tutorial video I want to go over a little bit in detail of some of the fade options, intensity settings, and some of the custom settings like Twinkle and some custom work that you can do. Try to make this as simple and as quick as possible, so try to bear with me here. First of all, we're going to start here with your intensity settings. Now, your intensity settings are basically automatically preset at 50%. So if you want a particular channel to come on at 50%, just make sure your intensity setting is selected and then hit whatever box you want, and that will come on at 50%. What if you wanted your intensity set at a lower or higher intensity? You got to come up to your tools, and you got to come to intensity tool settings, and this will come up with this little window that I suggest that if you're going to be playing around with a lot of intensity and want to change the amount or the percentage your lights will come on, just keep this window up and off to the side. So if you wanted it at 30%, actually it was set at 60% because I was playing around with it, and you click with your intensity icon selected, you will now see that your intensity is set at 30%. Same thing with 80%. You can see that it's at 80%. Actually, let me zoom in just a little bit to make this a little bit easier for you guys to see. Move it over just a hair. All right. You can see that the intensity, the square itself, the little grid part itself is highlighted according to the intensity. Now, I didn't mention here, but I always like to, if you come up here where it says view fades as ramps, if you don't do that, the intensity levels along with your ramps will look like faded white depending on your intensity. I think using the ramps makes it a lot easier for me to see the actual intensity. So that's my 2 cents there. But excuse me, your intensity settings are right here where you can play with. Okay, basic intensity settings. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here. Your next set is your fade buttons. You have fade up and fade down. And fade up, obviously, if you hold it and select one, it's going to fade from 0 to 100 in that one block. If you drag it, it's going to do it 0 to 100 in the next block. Okay, you have fade down. Common sense will tell you that'll fade down. And then you have something called intelligent fade, which I don't like, but you might be helpful to you. Basically, if you have this selected and you go in this direction, it's going to fade up. If you go in this direction, it's going to fade down. So keep in mind, but I don't like it because I like to do everything from left to right, and if I were to do that, it's going to do 2 fade ups. Never use this setting, but this is what it is. So if you notice, or if you wanted to know what that was, there you go. Also, if you go up to your tools, when it comes to fade, you have your fade tool settings, and you can actually select and program and customize what you want your fade to come. Like if I wanted to go from 0 to 50%, okay. Now if I go fade up, it didn't do it. Oh, there we go. I did 25 to 50%. You see, it starts at 25 and it goes up to 50%. 0 to 50%. There you go. 0 to 50%. Now, I do tend to use this portion, this little feature, from time to time. It's usually from 0 to 50 or from 50 to 0. And I'll let you know. You can always open up this fade bar and adjust these settings. I like to keep these settings at 0 to 100. Okay, I just like to keep them there. And then if I wanted to fade up to 50%, and I wanted the fade to go from this block to this block, but I wanted to go from 0 to 50%, I'll actually do 4 blocks, and then I'll take my intensity, which is always in most cases set at 50%. Let me see what I have it here. Okay, I do have it back at 50%. And then I'll just take the last 2 blocks, and now I've got 0 to 50%. and then vice versa if I want to do the other way. I find that that is a little bit easier than messing with the settings and then coming in to do something. If I'm doing something very detailed, something that this won't work, then I will go and adjust the settings. But in most cases, I just do it this way. Feel free to do it this way or do it the other way, but at least you know what that setting is. All right. I'm going to go ahead and erase all this that I've got going on here, and we're going to go over and talk about the two other settings here. You've got Twinkle. I think I might have mentioned this before. If you select Twinkle, you'll see little tiny X's throughout the entire block. Now what this basically does, let me zoom out just a little bit to show you. Where'd it go? There it is. Alright, if you look over here in this little section here, you'll see my channels. But when you select Twinkle and you get to go, all the lights will randomly blink, but separately. So all the channels are blinking at random things, but separately. Okay. There's another one called shimmer. If you select shimmer and you do it, they will all blink randomly, but they all blink together. Does that make sense? So you have whatever channels you're doing, shimmering, they will all blink like a random pattern, but they'll all blink at the same random pattern. Whereas Twinkle will blink at a random pattern, but they'll all do it at a different time. It's more of a Twinkle scenario. I hardly ever, I don't think I've ever used the shimmer setting. I've always used Twinkle. That's just my opinion. You have this star here. This is the custom key. Now custom is really for your shimmer and your Twinkle, but you can set shimmer and Twinkle at custom intensity settings and fade in and fade out shimmer or Twinkle. I use this a lot, especially at the end if the song tends to have a big climax but then fades out really quickly. I like to do like a Twinkle fade out or something like that, or shimmer fade or whatever the case may be. But there is where you're going to find those custom settings. And then I wanted to mention one more quick thing, and then we'll end this video. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. Another thing, let's just say I use this a lot at the end of a song where I have the song doesn't necessarily end, it just fades out while the beat's still going. So I'm going to quickly just make just a random beat here, you know, whatever the case may be, nothing fancy. But let's just say in this instance that this song is fading out, and I want the lights to continue the beat and the pattern that they're going, but I want them to fade out at the same time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit select the fade out button, and then you have these two options here. You have background effects and foreground effects. And I always get them confused, but I believe if I wanted this to fade out in the background, oh, see, I have it backwards. Foreground effects. This is going to fade, and let me show you here. You can see that my blocks are now fading as they go down from 100% to 0%. Really cool feature, especially if you want the lights to fade out with the fading music. The foreground effect is putting, let me undo this. The foreground effect is putting basically the fade out in front of my layout, whatever you want to call it, my design, and you'll see that it'll fade from 100 to 0, but the channels that I have chasing here stay at 100%. I usually hardly ever use foreground, but I have in the past. Just keep that in mind here, for you can do that. You also have a couple of little quick shortcut buttons for your intensity and your fade tool settings, so if you want to use that there. But anyway, I hope this helps. You definitely are going to want to play with this. Setting intensity levels will give you more customizability, if that's a word, on your channels and your songs, and you can do a lot of cool things with one channel. If you are now turning that channel instead of on off or just fading it, you can actually set it at 10 different intensity settings, and then you have 10 different ways that that strand or that channel looks. So you can do a lot of really cool things. It takes more time. Once you get more fluent, more used to it, then hopefully that'll help. So hope it helps. Make sure you stay tuned. I have some more videos coming. I'm going to send another video on some keyboard shortcuts. Also, coming up, we're going to have how to initiate your hardware, hook it up, how to build a show, and go from start to finish with all that stuff. So stay tuned. Plenty more of these lighter Rama videos to come.